start fighting, to do some drills and to work on some things that you know that you're having problems with. Most people really are not doing this sort of thing. And I know Rifkin and Tim and Ethred and you guys have been doing training once a week as well that incorporates more of the training, more of the drills and training, and as they're doing that, you're not doing full speed, full power. You're going through the process. There are other practices to be had where you can go and you can exercise and you can get the sparring. But I cannot emphasize enough how important it is to remove that competitive component and to do the training you can get. We've been doing training on a separate night at my house for my guys the last 6 months or so. And I've always kind of done training, but I've tried to make the separation at practice. But I found it was so much easier to set aside 2 hours, on another night of the week. We don't do armored training. It's all unarmored, sometimes hats and bats, but mostly it's just totally unarmored. You don't spend the time putting on the armor, taking it off, and be worrying about whether or not your wife's going to tell you to get a shower before you come to bed, because you're all thinking you're fighting all night long. Being able to, you can actually accomplish more in 2 hours of unarmored training and in 4 hours of practice. It's really pretty remarkable if you take that extra little bit of time. And if you're dedicated to what we do and you want to be expert at what we want to do, if you want to be a world-class fighter, which I think everybody should want to be a world-class fighter. Most of you guys are here on Saturday. I'm sure you have other things you possibly could be doing, but here you are trying to be better fighters, right? And so if you're willing to take this kind of time, once a month to come out and do this, are you also willing to take an extra evening once a week to do unarmored training and to go through some of the drills and talk about what's going on in the fight, talk about some of the kind of failures that you have, and try to figure out how you're going to address those issues. It's one thing to isolate the problem. It's something else entirely to find a solution for the problems that you have. Okay? And sometimes, there are those of us out there, I can see what's wrong, and I can, if I don't have a specific drill for it, I can find one. I can create a drill that is going to address, different problems. And that's been really interesting for me over the last, little while that we've been doing training at the house. See what's going on with my guys, and I'm like, okay, I know this is a problem. How do we fix it? I'm going to take an hour and go through some stuff, and I've come up with some pretty cool stuff. One of the drills that we're going to be doing later today is one that I've come up with in the last 6 months to address some issues, and it's worked out really, really well for my guys, and I think you're going to like it. And it's just one of those things that just kind of came naturally through the course of the training. It forces you to think about what we're doing, how to fix it, and try to break it all down. Is there any questions?
So much of what we do happens so quickly, and it's dependent on muscle memory and development of muscle memory. And we know from sport training, sports training, that's the real key to top flight execution. So to teach you to develop the muscle memory, you equate the development of the initial muscle memory to training or practice?
Training, absolutely. Absolutely. Does everybody know how to type the keyboard? Like with all the fingers, not this. I remember, I never took a typing class in high school, so I actually sat down and worked one day and realized that I needed to learn how to do these, and I sat down on the keyboard. And it was, when I started learning to type, it was really slow and miserable. And the one key that I really honed in on really fast was the delete key. The backspace key and the delete key, I knew exactly where those were. I wasn't really sure where everything else was, but that backspace key and that delete key, I knew exactly where those were. And that's what muscle memory is. And it starts off really dreadfully slow. And that's why we have to break things down, and that's why we do the drills. This is how you do the thing. This is how you throw a shot. And these are the sort of things that you're looking for throughout the course of the fight. You know, like I said, this sport is about, it is speed, and it is power, and it's a game of milliseconds and microinches, right? Being able to hit that hole at just the right time, just the right amount of stick. And what we're doing is happening really fast. I don't know if you guys have any idea about how fast this stuff is happening, but it's ridiculous. But the good news is your brain really does work that fast. There's a story I like to tell about the time I won a couple years ago, last year. I was fighting a lefty and taking his leg, and he was sitting down on his knees, and I had him all set up, and I had this plan, right? I was gonna throw kind of an offside sort of thing, because I wanted his shield to come out over here, right? So in my mind, I had this vision of big sweeping motion over here. So I want his shield to go over here, so he needs to see this big sweeping motion that I'm gonna do. So, and I did. I went. I threw the shot, hit him right in the belly, game over. And in my mind, I was like, hey, look at this. Look at this thing I'm doing over here, because I want you to see this over here. I want you to react to something happening over here. And it was this big sweeping motion. And when I looked at it on the film, it was this. That was it. Just a little flick of the wrist, and it was done. But the point is, you reacted to that exactly as that happened. And it wasn't a huge motion, and it wasn't. It was a fraction of a second. Everything went right over because the brain really does work that fast. And but that comes from that muscle memory. It comes from learning how to. It comes from conditioning. In that case, he learned from probably being hit a lot of times, and on the outside. As soon as I see something going over there, that thing's got to go over there, right? Well, if you can train your brain to react that quickly in a defensive fashion, you can also train your brain to work that fast in an offensive fashion. Right? And then again, that all comes from muscle memory, and that comes from breaking it down. It comes from me going, into a training. And I throw a shot and say, "What do you see?" And you pick a target. Okay, you can get at that target, and it starts off that slow. Sometimes some of what we do in the drills and walkthroughs and training is sometimes it is really slow. That's how we get to it. It comes from repetition, and that is all part of this process. We show you how to do the thing. We give you scenarios that are based on actual combat situations. You slow it down, break it down, and say, what do you see here? How would you react here? It's like, okay, you threw that shot. Is there a better shot you can be throwing? Some of you guys have heard me talking about, the decision-making tree that you have. When you have a variety of targets available to you, in the ideal situation, if you see a headshot, if you recognize that the target the head is open, there's a variety of ways you can get there. You can throw a flat snap, you can throw an offside, you can throw a head nap. Right? The best choice there is to always throw the shot that is easiest to throw. Right? If you've got all of the head open, why would you throw an offside head when the flat snap is so much easier to throw? Right? So you always want to throw the shot that is easier to throw. Likewise, if you have a choice of two targets and you have a lethal target and a non-lethal target, ideally you want to throw the lethal target over the non-lethal target. Right? I get asked all the time, how the hell can you make decisions that fast? But you can. Your brain really does work that fast, but it's a matter of training. It's a matter of going through the drills, and I give you two different targets and things that you could go for. There's not necessarily a right answer, but that's what the training is for. That's what the practice is for. And that's kind of the model that we're trying to set up, so that you guys can go home from this weekend and you can take that, set aside that time to set up the drills and create that environment, and so that you get less and less concerned about fighting. You're going to be able to just chip away at all these things that are problems. And as you chip away at those things, you eliminate those deficiencies, and success just happens.